Attic Scale plus Customer Success Summit. You're currently watching Doing More with Fewer Resources. I'm your MC, Mac Briscoe, and I'm a technical account manager here at Matic. And I'm excited to introduce our speakers. And as I introduce them, I'm going to have them answer our icebreaker question, which is, what would you do to scale in your personal life? So the first speaker that I'm going to introduce is Erica Villarreal, a strategic customer success manager at Victoria. So Erica, what would you like to scale in your personal life?
I actually want to answer this question with something that I already did scale in my personal life that was
Oh,
critical
perfect.
for me, and that is my personal finances. I used to do my personal finances in an Excel spreadsheet that took me forever to put in all of my expenses and track everything that I was
Yeah.
spending. And I found a tool called YNAB that does that automatically for me. So now I just refresh the thing, export a graph, see where I'm spending more or less, and use that to budget my finances for the year. So it has been a game changer, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who wants to scale personal finances.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Does it like integrate with all of your like banks and other
All
financial
of my bank
things? So
accounts,
like all the
all
data comes
financial
into it?
information. Yes, exactly.
Ooh, oh, yeah.
I love
I'll have
it.
to start utilizing that. What was it called again?
Why nav?
White Nav.
It's
Awesome.
it's YNAB. You need a budget. That's what it stands
Yes,
for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have heard of You Need a Budget.
I absolutely love it. So
Me too.
Yeah, awesome. Next, we have Marcus Wrench, CEO at Remarkable. So Marcus, like, what would you like to scale in your personal life?
Probably all kinds of chores if possible.
Like, what is your biggest pet peeve in terms of chores? Like, what's the most annoying one or most time-consuming one that you'd like to get out?
Yeah, that's quite difficult to say. I'm not fond of any of these chores. So yeah, don't know. Maybe yeah, all the shopping.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that one. Just traffic and everything else just makes it so difficult. So it would definitely be much easier on life if we could just have that out of the way. Next, we have Rachel Provin, the founder and CEO at Provan Success. So Rachel, what would you like to scale in your everyday life?
Oh, so many things. And I'm just starting to scale things in my business. So it's like all I think about is how can I processize this and give it to someone else?
Well, it's the perfect summit for you then.
Oh yeah. Probably cooking healthy meals
Yeah,
because like I do not have time to cook and takeout is like $50 for two of us getting a sandwich. It's ridiculous here. But I don't have time. So if anyone has that figured out, let me know.
yeah, I've done a lot of the like meal kits where you like order them and everything comes in and it's like pre-portioned and pre-cooked and like that helps a little bit,
Yeah.
but
A lot of them are still really high calorie, high fat, high salt. And I'm like, that's not
yeah,
healthy. Thanks. And to bone it, and now it doesn't taste good. So yeah, I need like to double myself. So I have someone who
yeah,
can cook, clean, do all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I feel that. Um, yeah, the like hidden salt and hidden calories too really add up when you're not looking for
I
them.
want to taste that if it's going to be in there.
Yeah, definitely. And then we also have Sumi Jaiswal, the customer success leader at Dot Dot. So Sumi, what would you like to scale in your personal life?
I think I have a very different take on this. I don't think that in my personal life, the story, relationships, fulfillment, anything for me can be reduced to a number. So I think that the scale metric in personal life for me will be misguided. I think it leads to comparison, stress, scarcity mindset. So
Yeah,
I feel that your worth isn't defined by how you stack up to others. You need to actually look beyond a scale metric. So, and scale usually is synonymous with breadth, not depth. So, the only metric that truly matters to me is the substance metric. I think that's something that few understand, very few comprehend, and even less are able to put into practice. So, I'm always trying to perhaps live in alignment with my values. Trying to think, what kind of a person am I aspiring to be? Am I making the choices that honor what matter to me most in life? And that sort of becomes my North Star. Bringing in scale mentality into personal life for me would be bad, even detrimental, if you would. I think the world is already drunk on scale, bigger, faster, more. So you really don't need more of that in the personal life. So yeah, that's the path I'm on.
Yeah, I love that answer too, because like I think a lot of the times we do get hyper focused on how can we do everything, and like especially in our professional lives, like I feel like there are a lot of buzzwords and initiatives that like can take away from just being productive in day to day. So yeah, the concept of just not hyper focusing on everything, I think is a really good way to think about things sometimes. So we are waiting on one more person. We're having a little bit of tech difficulties on that end. So let me just go in and remind everyone that if you do have any questions during this session, please put them in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the session. Any questions that we don't get to, we'll share with our speakers at the end of the session and post the answers alongside the session recording when the resource hub goes live at the end of this. So still waiting on one person, it looks like someone just joined. Hey, Bex.
Hi, folks. My name is Bex. I'm head of marketing. We are working with Dan Ennis to fix a few little technical things. I mean, it's not a summit until something's going wrong. But he did share the first couple questions. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. And when he joins, we'll bring him back to speed. So first question for the crew. This session is obviously about doing more with fewer resources. What are common areas you found that teams can immediately improve efficiency as they look to scale?
I can take it first, I guess. Yes, so for me, I think there's three things that I would focus on when we think about scale. The first one is what tasks can be automated, right? So when you think about the customer success journey, all of these things that are repetitive for CSMs to be doing, like how can you automate email templates, how can you automate the renewal process, how can you automate the onboarding journey for a specific customer. Another of the things that is for me, being a CSM and doing this role, one of the things that takes a lot of time sometimes is data management. So when you are a CSM and you have to be constantly reviewing different tools, like you can, I don't know, you have Salesforce for sales related things, and then you have your CS platform, and then you have to review support tickets, and then financial information that comes from a different system, right? Having to be juggling between all of these different systems and trying to get the information that you're looking for to better help your customer, that takes a lot of time. So centralizing all of that information, centralizing all of that data into one single source of truth where CSMs can access that information in an easier and faster way can definitely speed up the process for CSMs and for the customers as well.
And I can jump in here. I definitely agree that templatizing anything you can, there are certain life cycle milestone things that are going to happen at a particular point in the customer life cycle, like that welcome email, like a reminder about an upcoming renewal. Those things can be put in place. You don't need a CSM to push a button on that email every time, but it can still look like it's coming from them if you have the right tools set up. Now, I mean, I'm trying to figure this type of thing out for myself and my business. And the thing that has been most helpful for me has been time, just time tracking. What am I spending my time on? And I have my CS leaders do this in my course, but it's like the task and the activity, I have it here. The time spent, does it help increase NRR, increase adoption, or increase advocacy? And is it a task value that's $10 an hour, $100 an hour, or $500 an hour if you were to pay someone to do this? And a lot of times you find out you're doing a lot of $10 an hour tasks. And because those reactive tasks do tend to be, they feel more important, but they're not as valuable as spending time on strategic initiatives. I find you really have to carve out that time. So recognizing those places where, oh, these are $10 hour tasks that I'm spending time on, can you record yourself doing it? You know, I do a combination of Loom and Scribe. So then I have a recording of me doing it, talking it through, plus, you know, screenshots and like push this button here for multiple learning styles. And then you can hand it off to someone. You know, if you're in a leadership position, you can hand that off to someone lower. If you're in my position, you can hand that off to a VA. But I think it helps you see where you should be prioritizing your time.
Okay. I love that both of the answers. I have a slightly different take. I will start by saying that you absolutely cannot do more with less. I think if you push the current set of variables harder without any additions, they will either break, or you will break, or after some time, all will break. So doing more with less is great for boardrooms, great for those presentations you make, great for the whiteboard, super lethal for the real world execution. And frugality was always supposed to be sensible as a concept. Folks twisted the concept, and now frugality is a proxy for doing more with less. So, as I think of it, frugality is bang at the center of that bridge between insanity and stupidity. Few ever find the it works detour there. So, my recommendation is add more to do more. You scale by adding efficiency and automation, and I think that's what everyone was talking about. Sometimes, in the short term, that may mean additional monetary investment, but that reaps exponential results over time. And how do I typically do it? I use 4 pillars: people, process, technology, and data. People means, look at your CSMs. Uh, can they actually go into specialization? Are there certain trainings that can be done? CSMs can be enabled and empowered better. You can create knowledge bases, you can have knowledge sessions. There's so much. Look at your support tickets. Maybe some tickets can be knowledge-based articles or how-to videos or in-app guides. You can reduce that effort for your teams. The next one is process. Process and playbooks need to be recreated if you're trying to scale. Again, keeping the efficiency and automation lens. So do you really need 4 face-to-face EBRs with each customer every year? Can the business review be async, just mail to the customers, and then they can raise maybe your ticket, or there can be a follow-up for certain strategic or big ticket accounts. You also need to look at things like, what is the real value that you're driving in those cadence meetings that you keep doing with your customers, that you keep pushing on your teams. The next pillar is tech. I think even before you look at anything else, it's very important to look, are you really utilizing your current tech stack efficiently? Sometimes people think that tech is magic, they look at it as a magic wand, but I don't think it's that. What So you actually should look at what other tools do you already have in your org, right? So it actually means collaborating at a whole new level. You collaborate with marketing, sales, your product teams. Say marketing uses a tool for mail campaigns, or sending SMS to the customers. Maybe CS can utilize that. So I think not every communication that the CS team is doing needs to be a meeting. And then you look at what are the repeat tasks your CSMs are doing. You can automate all of that through your technology. So even before you look for new technology, you should actually assess what you already have and are you really utilizing that well. And of course, when it comes to new technology, there are a lot of things now. Can you actually do onboarding through automation, or parts of onboarding through automation? Or if you are creating a lot of presentations, can you automate that for your team? Or else, if there are too many meetings which are essential, then can the meeting note taking, analysis, MOM sending can be automated? So it'll vary for organizations because they will have different setup and different things which are priority for their business. I think you should look at that. And then I have been in a situation where I actually automated the entire renewal proposal flow. So there are tools for that now, and that's the amazing part. But one needs to actually assess it really well before you go there. And just the fourth part, which is data. Are you tracking the right data? Sometimes people track a lot of data and it just sits there as garbage. that doesn't mean anything at all. It doesn't add to your efficiency. You can't even automate anything with that data. So I think that is also very important. Sometimes I've seen CSMs complain that they don't have time because they're not able to complete. Because of that, they're not able to do their EBRs. But then you look at it closely, you may realize that your CSMs are getting pulled perhaps into a lot of support escalations. So when you actually do a root cause analysis, you will realize what is the actual thing that you need to solve for. Where do you actually increase your team efficiency? So yeah, I think that is how I would approach it.
Yeah, definitely. And I saw we just had Dan join, so just want to give him a quick introduction. Dan's actually going to be our moderator. So welcome Dan Ennis, Senior Manager of Scale Customer Success at Monday.com. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Mac. Appreciate that. And yeah, nothing like technology. We were just talking tech, and not
Of
assuming it
course.
does all the magic, and nothing like having errors joining a web conference to remind you that tech is not magic, in fact.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to hand it off to you, Dan, to take it over from here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mac. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Did everybody get a chance to answer? I came in kind of mid Sumi's answer, and I know I heard a couple of people talking. Did anybody else get a chance to share their thoughts on that first question that wanted to on the panel today before we jump in? Fantastic. Didn't want to cut anybody off because I obviously, like I said, missed part of it. I think, Sumi, I think your answer there about tech and not treating it like a magic bullet, I think is a good kind of segue into one of the other questions we had, which is when you're looking at doing more and trying to accomplish with your resources, one of the tensions you always feel like is when do you decide to spend more on investing in new tech versus how do you figure out how to accomplish more with the existing tech stack that you have? I'd love to hear from the group here on how do you approach that analysis?
Well, if there's going to be silence, I'm going to fill it. I think this is a different answer for customer success than it would be a general answer, because we tend to get asked to just try and make something else work. Why would we necessarily need our own tool? We have Salesforce, or, we have Trello, we have this, we have that. And it's so frustrating because it's just, those are the wrong tools for the job. You really have to look at what you're trying to accomplish. And is that possible within this tool? Does it make it faster? Does it help you achieve it more? People saying that CS should be done in Salesforce, to me, my response to that is, okay, well, tell the marketing team to go use Jira. What? We're all in tech. What's the problem? The problem is it's not the right tool for the job. And if you want the results that you're looking for from customer success, there is no way to get past a reactive mode when you don't have a way to view everything in, a single pane of glass, to see all of your customers, how they're doing, where they are in their journey. If you're going to 10 different places to look that up, it is simply not going to work, and you can't get the results that you want out of that. For a normal answer, it would just be like, look at what you're looking for, determine that. Could you do it with Zapier? That adds up very quickly, as everyone finds out at some point or another. But I think for CS, the answer always has to be, like anything else, tied to revenue. Like, how is not buying this costing us more than having this tool?
Yeah,
And
and I
Love
think
that
just
answer.
to yes, I totally agree. I just to add something to that, I think it's very important to understand the why. Whenever you're going for any technology, why do you really need it? That's the first thing. And if you've identified the real reasons why you need it, how it will, as Rachel very rightly pointed out, how it will impact your revenue in some format, then after that, it's very, very important to have the right process in place. For any tool to work, you need to have the right processes and playbooks first. So I would say that, that's another thing that you should do. You should work on that. You should create it. And then it should marry with that technology, because sometimes it might be an amazing technology, but not the good one for you. It will not work for you at all. So it becomes a burden instead of something that's alleviating your team's pain or adding to the efficiency.
And I can add in my thought process when we're thinking about new technology versus existing technology aligns very much with what Rachel said. Like, I think one of the things that's very critical before you go and evaluate any vendor, right, is to make a list of the things that you're looking to achieve, right? Like a CS platform can have multiple different workflows in it and can help you achieve a lot. And if you compare that with what you currently have, and then assign a cost to each one of those activities that you're looking to do with that tool, that cost is what will help you drive a decision on whether or not you should invest in the new tool. If whatever activity can't be done with your current tool, but costs you a lot of time from your CS team, and that cost, if you could invest it into new tools to help drive that activity, then that should be the decision on why you should get that new tool, right? And you can prove it with ROI, and you can prove it with money and value that you will deliver to the CS team if you do get a new tool, right? So cost benefit analysis for me, I'm a very numeric type of person. So I assign money to each one of those activities and help drive that decision with those numbers.
I love that point there, Erica, because I think that bridges like how you build the case for what it is that Rachel described. Because Rachel described the overarching idea of you want to make sure that you've got the right tool for the right job. Not can this tool do the job, but what's the cost of using this tool for that job? And I think that you've really helped kind of share how you would build that case, and I appreciate your point there as well, Sumi. So thank you all for sharing on that one. Marcus, did you have anything you wanted to add on this particular question?
Yeah, I think the whole topic of scaling customer success needs to be more strategic. So at the beginning, you start with a process that you're applying in your daily work. So, and if you are able to prove the process, so to make it repeatable, then you can automate your stuff and your activities and processes. And once you have done that analysis about what's worked, what has worked, and what doesn't work, then you go to the next step and understand, okay, and what technology and what is the capability of the technology that we have today. So you're really able to make some kind of a gap analysis between the tools you have today and the tools you might need to automate the processes you've identified that are ready for automation. So then, as others have said before, it's all about evaluating whether does it make sense to invest in new technology, if there actually is a gap. So because at the end of the day, it's not about buying every single tool that's available on the market, but using the right stack so that people are really using it, that it makes sense from cost and benefit perspective, so to really gain an advantage and not doing it for the sake of it.
Love that. Thanks for sharing that, Marcus. Really appreciate that. And I think that also is it's like you guys have the questions ahead of time or something, but it's a great segue into, I think also just, I would love to hear a little bit at a high level. I know you've all talked already a bit about some of the specific areas that you approach for scaling, but I'd love to hear, if you take that step back to what Marcus said about being strategic, how do you approach at a high level thinking about efficiency, whether that's for yourself or coaching others to find the right areas to improve their efficiency in?
I can take this one to start. For me, it's all about capacity planning. I view it as understanding what are those responsibilities that your CSM is currently having. And what I do when I think about capacity planning is, from that list of activities that they do, I assign a time of how much those activities take, and then you assign a cost of how much those activities will cost your CSM to do, right? So regularly auditing those workflows and those activities and really identifying those bottlenecks. Say, for example, when I think about my role, I think one of the activities that takes me the most time is building my business reviews, right? Why does it take me the most time? Because I have to spend hours to get the data from I don't know, from a source where I download that information, and then I translate that information into an Excel spreadsheet. Then I build the graphs and analyze those graphs. So the whole process of doing this activity for me might take 3 or 4 hours, right? So when you identify that this is a key activity for your CSMs that's taking a very long time, then you can evaluate which type of tools can help me automate this or can help me make it more efficiently, right? Tools like Matic, for example, and this is not promotion, but for analyzing business reviews and building this type of information, if you could put all of that data into a single source and get the graphs automatically instead of having you to do them on your own, you could be saving a lot of time and energy. And if you're managing 40 customers, imagine the amount of time that you would have to invest if you would have to do it manually, right? So once you do that analysis and meet with your team to better understand where their time is going to, then you can identify those bottlenecks and find the tools necessary that can help you improve the time that it takes, and at the end of the day, improve their efficiency as well. That's just a small example.
I can add to that. I think that's brilliantly summed up. I think also to add to Marcus's point, it doesn't make sense to automate something if you don't know it's right. You know, and I see a lot of people do this. I like to say, beware the easy button, because I think a lot of people first think CS is going to be the easy button for NRR. And no, I'm sorry, it's not. There's a lot that goes into it. So we think, oh, we'll get a tool that will put everything on rails, and then it will be easy, because that's what it looks like in the commercials, right? But we get there and it turns out we have to tell it what to do. Oops. So now it's sitting there for 6 months when we're scrambling and trying to figure out what to tell it to do. So the very first most important thing you can do is begin with the end in mind. What are we trying to do? You know, I build something similar to a customer journey. I call it a customer value realization map, which is every step that the company has to take on our end post-sale, and every step the customer has to take on their end to get the results they're looking for from the product. Some of those we can't see internally, but we need to know what those are before we start saying, all right, now let's put this on autopilot, test it out, prove it works, then by all means. But that takes a long time to figure out and get it proven out. So as important as scale is, if you don't do that, you're going to, you know, you can start broad and just see how it works, but you're going to lose more people that way.
I love that point,
Yeah.
Rachel. I was just talking about that with someone recently, about the idea of you build scale on top of the foundation of CS that works. And if you try to jump to scale too early, you're automating things that are not actually effective, and that's not efficient. So I love the way you called that out there.
Yeah, you basically people end up scaling garbage. There is something which is broken, and then you amplify that further. I think that happens a lot. So yeah, I think I totally agree with that. I think my way of approaching this, usually when I'm thinking of increasing the efficiency, again, it always revolves around these 4 pillars of people, process, tech, and data. And the broad things that I think about is segmentation, automation, simplification, iteration, and personalization. So yeah, those are the few things that I would like to add to everything that's been said. I absolutely agree to everything that's been said so far on this.
Thank you, Sumi.
I'm all in favor of following a scientific approach. So I believe that the best way to start with scaling is to come up with a hypothesis. So it could be something like, if I'm asking a customer these 5 particular questions, I can perfectly understand the use case and understand what they need from me as a customer success manager. And then I'm applying that hypothesis to validate it. So and see whether it works out. And only if it's proven to work, so that I can say, okay, it works 90% of situations, then it makes sense to start automating this fix. Because if the success rate is not high enough, of any activity or process, then it doesn't make sense to automate it, because at the end of the day, you will spend more time fixing the issues that have been caused by the automation than you save in the first place by automating it. And it obviously doesn't make sense. So we really need to focus on making things work first and prove them to work. So we also need to measure it with the right metrics and track it with the right metrics to achieve that kind of success rate. Because at the end of the day, when we're looking at customer success on a global level, one of our main goals is a high retention rate. And the thing is, if we want to have a retention rate of, let's say, 90%, that means that we have to make 90% of our customers successful, to make things really simple. But it also means that all the steps in our processes, in our delivery of service and content, everything we provide needs to perform on an equally high level. So if we want 90% success over a success rate, we could also translate it and say, okay, then we need 90% success rate in everything we provide. Every service and content that we create for our customers, and to help them master the product and become better at the job they're trying to do with our product.
Love that, because keeping customers at the center when we're scaling, I think that's massive, and keeping their success as the core North Star. Love that, Marcus. Thank you. With that, I really think we've got time for, I think we'll do one more question here before we move to the audience. I know we want to leave about 10 minutes for questions from the audience, but as we've worked through a lot of these situations here, I know that a lot of people who are attending today are probably nodding along, taking down furious notes from all the incredible insights you've all shared. But I'm also equally sure that they've got their list that is as long as their arm on all the things that they need to figure out how to scale. In an ideal scenario, they get to scale everything all at once, purchase all the necessary technology, get all the teams reorganized, wave their magic wand, tap that easy button that Rachel says exists somewhere, and make it all work together, right? But we know that's not the reality. So what I'd love to hear kind of is maybe our final question from the panel before we jump to questions from the audience is, how do you prioritize what aspects to scale, whether that's as an individual contributor or as the overall business?
I can go first, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah, Erica, you go.
Yes, thank you. So for me, when we talk about prioritization, I mean, there's different sets of different frameworks out there, right? Like there's 10 different prioritization frameworks. The one that I like to use the most is evaluating all of the tasks or all of the projects that you have decided that you need to do, and putting a value and a cost and effort to all of those, right? So imagine that you come up with 10 different projects, 10 different projects on how you're gonna scale and how you're gonna automate. Then I would add 2 different columns and say, okay, this is gonna take me how much time, how much resources do I need to complete this project, and how much value is this gonna bring to the table, right? If we're gonna automate the whole onboarding journey, and we're talking about 1,000 customers that we're gonna onboard in the smaller type of scale, and it's gonna improve the efficiencies during that, how much would this cost and how much value it brings? And then I prioritize based on the responses of those 2 things, right? Obviously, we cannot do all of the projects at the same time, and this is the way that I like to order them in the better way possible, I guess.
Thanks for sharing that. Sumi, I know you had some thoughts you were going to share.
Yeah. So yes, I think I love that. I feel that in such situations there are 2 aspects that come into play. One is the internal and the other is the external. Internal being you are focusing more on your team efficiency, and then you can do different prioritizations and you can figure it out. I have used 80-20 rule many a times, which means that I look at the repeat tasks that are taking 80% of my team's time, and I try and improve them. And I'm selfish in doing that because every improvement takes a lot of effort. And once I do that, even a delta of efficiency improvement will have substantial impact on the actual results. So that's why I do it. Now I talked about internal. The other aspect that I see is external. it can be an odd decision, or sometimes from the investors, where certain segments of customers, for certain segments, we are just trying to reduce the cost, which means that they won't have dedicated CSMs now. And in that case, all of a sudden that becomes your focus, because you know that that segment will get orphaned soon. So you can't really leave them out there to fend for themselves. And in that, you have to really focus on that one segment, figure it out, create a digital journey, figure out where you need the human touch. You do that by looking at your industry, your product, your customer persona. You think, how can you segment that further, create generic journeys, and have the right touch points, the right triggers for these customers throughout. And of course, very less human, but I still feel that you need some human, and more digital, because of course you are trying to scale that very quickly. So yeah, that is what I feel.
And I was going to jump on the 80. I literally wrote down, so I'd remember it, 80/20 right before it came out of your mouth. So same page, but a slightly different slant on that. Something that I talk about a lot is realistic expectations. The whole thing of, doing more with fewer resources. If I hear do more with less one more time, I think that's going to explode.
Oh my
Everyone
God.
says, and because that's not possible, right?
Yes.
You're going to have to change your strategy. You can't just say, all right, we went from 10 people to 5, and now you're covering all the same amount of accounts, and you better not lose one. That's just not going to happen, and you're going to make people miserable. They're going to burn out, and then you're going to have even fewer. It's going to be a negative spiral. I understand the feeling to need to do that because you're scared, your business is losing money. I understand all of that. The only way to attack that and truly, make an impact with fewer humans is by focusing on the Pareto principle, the 80/20, which is also 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. People forget to double down on what's working.
Mhm.
There's so many times we're trying to chase what we're bad at and improve it by 10-15% when we take it's really this thing that we're really good at that we lean into that a little more. What of our efforts is actually making a difference, doing more of that, and understanding that no, you're not going to be able to do those other things, and there will be a consequence to that, but that you might be able to make up for it in terms of revenue by focusing on it in a different way.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Especially that part where 20% actually leads to 80% of things.
Yeah.
And I think that you talked about, setting realistic expectations. I always laugh when people bring out that chart of effort versus impact, and they want to find that thing that's really low effort but crazy high impact. It's like, that doesn't exist, right? If it does, you're just missing something obvious, maybe, but that's a unicorn. It's rare. Usually the things that have the biggest impact require effort to do. And so I love that reminder of setting realistic expectations, Rachel.
Minor thing.
Just minor, little things, setting realistic expectations. Fantastic. Marks, was there anything you wanted to add before we jump into the questions from the audience?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to how we are interpreting doing more. So if we are associating doing more with doing more tasks, I think it's the wrong belief. So what we ultimately need to do is we need to deliver more results with fewer resources, because at the end of the day, customer success management is still about the customer. So if you're not able to deliver value to customers, it doesn't matter whether your team has 3, 10, or 20 CSMs. It doesn't matter. So if customers are churning, it doesn't matter how efficiently you are working in the CSM department. Doesn't matter. So we need to first start focusing on delivering value to customers, and in the next step, we need to try and do it with less and less effort. So I think that's the more healthy way to look at doing more. By really staying focused on the customer. So that's something I've often seen missing in the past. So it really has been about doing really more tasks with fewer people. But if we're looking at the tasks that our companies are doing, So whether they are done in a one-on-one setup or scaled, many of them are simply useless. So companies are doing them because they think you are supposed to do it. So because 100 peers of your company are doing it the same way, or because you have always done it, but you have never evaluated whether these things provide any value to customers or to your customer success or organization. So we really need to focus on what doing more really means. At the same time that we are doing it with fewer resources, it's also the best time to really evaluate everything we are doing. And if things are not delivering any value, so if there's stuff that follows where you have to do a lot of effort, you have to bring a lot of effort, but there's really no impact. So we really need to cut the crap and yeah, put all that stuff into the trash can and stop doing things for the sake of it. So everything that's redundant needs to go. So that should be always the first step when you're thinking about doing more with fewer resources.
Amazing. Thank you, Marcus. And Mac, I know I just say jumping on what I was going to say, and then we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience really quick.
Yeah, we're actually at time. So I don't think we have time for questions, but any questions, the questions that we won't be able to get to, we'll pass along to our speakers. And we will be sharing their answers along with the recording at the end of the session in the Resource Hub. So you'll get all of the recordings and responses to those questions at the end of this session. So I just want to thank all of our wonderful speakers for joining us today, and thank you everyone else for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye all.